EB-3 is often seen as a simple way to move to the US through work, but is it really that practical for Vietnamese applicants?
That's a good question because, EB-3 is for skilled workers, as you mentioned, and for the right applicant, it certainly can be a good immigration strategy. But there are really 3 or 4 critical sort of roadblocks or challenges that any EB-3 applicant is going to face. First of all, the labor market in the United States has to be tested to make sure that the EB-3 applicant is not taking a job from a U.S. worker. That's done by way of something called a PERM process that's done with the Department of Labor. So that step has to be cleared first. That's hurdle number 1. Hurdle number 2 is filing an I-140 with the USCIS, and this must be done by a real employer. This is not a petition that can be filed by the worker. They actually have to find someone who's going to employ them, and USCIS will review that in the I-140. Then the investor has to understand that there's a waiting line for EB-3. So if you look at the current visa bulletin, you'll see that there are not visas immediately available for investors from Vietnam. So that's the third hurdle. Then, once a visa becomes available, they have to go to the consulate here in Ho Chi Minh and interview for the immigrant visa. And that can also be a challenge. Historically, the consulate has asked many questions about EB-3. They want to make sure that it's a legitimate employment relationship, that the structure is in fact true and accurate, and that the individual really is a skilled employee that will be working for this employer. So again, it's a good category, but I think people need to be very, very careful when they approach this as their immigration strategy. Understand the timing and the kind of challenges of various government entities looking very closely at what it is they're really doing.
With so many EB-3 programs being marketed in Vietnam, what should people do to know what is lawful and what is not?
Yeah, it's difficult because the laws can be a little complicated, but I think that individuals need to read about the EB-3 program to educate themselves about what it is and what it isn't. And once they understand that, ask questions. Really understand what it is you're doing, who it is you're going to be working for. It's extremely important that people understand that anything they say at the later stages of the EB-3 process to, for example, a consular officer has to be true. If there's any kind of misrepresentation, even if the misrepresentation is just a misunderstanding, that can have future immigration consequences that are quite severe. So this is a serious business when somebody's making representations, or when someone is answering questions that are posed to them by a consular officer. They have to be able to respond, and they have to respond truthfully. Not responding truthfully can create all sorts of other problems, potentially meaning the individual can not go to the United States in the future.
Yes, I got it. So what about EB-2 NIW? How is it different from EB-3?
So EB-2 NIW is a national interest waiver, and it's very similar also to EB-1A, which is for extraordinary ability aliens. So these categories are really reserved for the very best individuals in an industry or field of study, science, arts, business, these kinds of areas. It's a very, very high standard, and it's widely considered one of the most difficult visas to qualify for, because you have to show, you have to satisfy certain criteria that are not easy to satisfy, and you have to show for the EB-2 NIW that the expertise that you have is in the national interest of the United States. The other thing that USCIS focuses on quite closely is that this expertise that you have, you will actually bring that to the United States and benefit the United States. We call this a work plan. And USCIS is looking very, very closely at that, as well as the actual criteria that an individual satisfies. So there's a very high RFE rate for EB-2 NIWs. They're very difficult for the average individual to qualify for. For the right applicant, yes, it's a good category, but for most people, I would say it's a very, very difficult category to qualify for.